G'day and welcome to David Joshua Ford Live. This is episode 119, and on today we're taking a look at grouping Elgato stream decks in Companion. You might have got one stream deck and then you've got more stream decks, and over time you need a way to put them together. So we're going to take a look at 2 or 3 ways of doing that. One is putting them on the same page of Companion so they move around in tandem, or else you can use variables to get them across multiple pages. It's a little more complex, but it gives you a lot more flexibility to be able to scale up and down from using just a single stream deck or to put multiple stream decks into an order like this. So this is what I've got in my layout. So when I sort of jump to control something like an ATEM with a lot more ins and outs, it's bringing all those ins and outs onto these additional pages so that as I move around, this is all connected as one interface. But the nice thing is I can also use it by disconnecting these ones so that these can all be independent. If you want to, for example, have a videotape playback on one deck and only use 2 decks in tandem. So these are the ways that we're going to look at that. If you do have any questions as we go along, do drop them in the chat. We'd love to hear from you about live streaming, photography, video production, anything else that's on your mind. But otherwise, we're going to kick off and get into today's topic, which is taking a look at grouping stream decks. And to start with part 1, we're going to look at just putting 2, 3, or 4 stream decks on a single page, because that's probably the easiest way to get started if you're just wanting to increase your real estate. As I was showing you before here, you've got like one stream deck which will have 32 buttons, but you might want to increase it to 2 pages, or even like a quadrangle of like 4 like that. And so we can look at just, or even, you could spread it out this far if you want, depending on the layout of your desk really. So I've got my keyboard here, and I quite like having 4 in a row, but I could see other people probably could have, room for more of like a grid of 2 by 2 is another way of laying them out. So let's jump into Companion, and we're going to take a look at under surfaces. Actually, we'll start with buttons. So this is our canvas here. I've already expanded mine just because I've got a lot of things going on in it. But by default, when you start, you probably just have the 8 by 4 kind of grid, and you can add to that over time. If you go into settings, buttons, button size, and then you can edit the size here. So I've set mine to 07 -1 16. So this is actually, so it's 8 rows high and it's 18 wide. So that's where you can sort of set your grid. Remember that you're, trying to think if I've got a blank page for us to look at. I'll just add a page in here, going down here, and I'm just going to add 1 page just so we can take a look at it. Remember that by default, your page is starting at 0, 0. So if it's saying 7, it's actually 8 buttons between 0 and column 7 here. So what I've got is essentially a stream deck XL in this quadrant, and then I've got another space for 1 here, space for 1 down the bottom, and space 1 here. So I can have 4 stream decks, and then I've also got, let me go back here, jumping around. I've also got another 2 columns on either side of that, excuse me, at -1 here and at 16 here. And that's just because of the Stream Deck Studio that I have in my rack over here. You'll see it's got the rotaries here, so that's the additional column that I'm allowing for in my builds. And if I move my monitor out of the way, you can see that this is sort of like 16 by 2. So this sort of layout works well with Companions this sort of size. So I recommend going into your settings, buttons, and maybe updating it to something like 8 rows by 18 columns is what I've got there. All right, now that we've got our grid expanded, we can go to surfaces. and I'm going to find the Stream Decks that I have. I'm just going to start by removing mine from, I'll show you this later. So I'm going to separate these. At the moment they're all working in tandem. But I'm going to isolate the decks, and we're going to come back to here, and you can see I've got a couple of emulators, and then I've got my Stream Deck XLs 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is what you see down here. And they're actually connected via, where are we? Companion satellite version 2.2. So I have on my computer at my desk, the Stream Deck's plugged into my local computer sitting here at the desk, and then in my, I think I have my wide shot here. So the Stream Decks are plugged into my computer, and then over the network, they're connected to Companion, which is actually in my rack over here. So that's running on a Mac Mini M4 Pro, which is, Companion is sort of running as a server in this rack. But my Stream Decks here are USB into the computer, and then Companion satellite over the network to my computer here. So that's how I've sort of laid out my desk. If you're wondering why these have got numbers here, this is like my computer address .7.16 rather than local would be like locally attached. All right, so we're going to start by adding a group, and we're going to call this demo group, and it'll give it an ID, and it's going to sit at the top there, and we can just choose either use last page at startup, so it's just going to remember where it was. And this is kind of like, it's like a virtual surface, so it's going to be like a container for multiple surfaces that we place into it. And so now that is going to remember the position, or like which page position you're on, rather than the Stream Decks themselves. So now I'm going to go down to Stream Deck XL, and so that's this one here. And rather than it being standalone, I'm going to add it into demo group here. And I don't need to change any offset in here. It's going to be all good. And I can move on to my XL2. And you can see it's disappeared and it's come up here. So it's been put under this group here. And I need to like relay out these decks for this layout. Maybe I'll just do two for you. So Stream Deck XL2 is what I've got here. And instead of standalone, I want to also put it into the demo group. And now you'll see that both of these buttons reflect the same page. So if I go to page 1, you'll see here, they're reflecting these first 32 buttons here in the grid. So what I want it to do is, actually don't have anything over here in this empty canvas. So maybe instead I will move it down here where I've got some old buttons that often when I'm like building a profile, I'll be cutting and pasting from a sort of empty canvas around it. And so instead I want this area to reflect this page here. And so I'm going to go back to Surfaces, select Stream Deck 2, and I'm going to do the vertical offset is going to increase it. And you'll see these are starting to move down. If I go too far, I'll get black. So come back down here. And voila. Now let me see if I can arrange these so these make a little more sense visually. I wonder if that would work. I could probably make a grid. Let's try that. Okay, so we'll keep adding to that. That was 2, and then we can get 3, add it to the demo group, and I'm going to go Stream Deck 3, and we're going to do the horizontal offset now. So that's moving this one. You can see these buttons line up here, and so now we're off, moved it over 8. And then we're going to get Stream Deck 4, and where am I? Standalone demo group, and we're going to do both the horizontal offset, and we're also going to do the vertical offset, which I can't really see if that's reflected, but let's chuck a button in there. So that should show up on this one. If I create a button and I make it purple, then we can see we are, what are we, 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah, that's right. That should be in the second row. I'm just gonna paste that in there. Okay, so now we can see that these 4 Stream Decks now give me 128 buttons that reflect this page. And so now when I step through my pages here, it's reflecting all of my canvas that I have, 128 buttons. So that's pretty cool when you also sort of think about pairing it with the, actually should have pulled this up before, but Stream Deck XL module, I think it's called. This one. Pull it up. So you can now get from Elgato basically just like the faceplate of these Stream Deck XLs. Would love to get some of them to sort of build something. But essentially it's the same Stream Deck. It's still got the sort of more gummy keys as opposed to the square, sharper ones. And I wonder if it doesn't really show the back. It's annoying for like a DIY thing to not show the back. But you can 3D print things and build it into your custom spaces, or, you know, it doesn't show it here, but you could, you know, have a third-party enclosure. It'd be great to have some links to those. If you guys know of some, let me know. I'll put them in there to create like a larger Stream Deck with more keys. And because of the smaller edge on it, you could probably get these a little bit closer together, and then you can kind of make it just into one unit. I mean, this is starting to get maybe a little bit too big, I think, depending on your desk layout. I'd probably prefer something like 1.5 the height and a bit longer, because you think about having 2 hands, you kind of want to cover the surface area of 2 hands, so you want something a bit probably longer than you do want high, but that's just something to think about if you wanted to pair Stream Decks in that way. So yeah, it just gives a lot more buttons to play with. All right, let's go to excuse me. Let's go to part 2, and now we're going to look at putting the decks across multiple pages. So we're using variables to jump the deck groups to specific pages, rather than just going to them being all on the same page. And the reason you might want to do this is for flexibility, and this is the way that I've laid my profile out. And it just means that you can scale up or down depending on how many Stream Decks you want to have in use. So having, you know, 4 Stream Decks in tandem is great if you've built a profile that is always going to use them. But if you suddenly have just say you go to a shoot and you need to run your show across an entire canvas here, and so you need 4 Stream Decks to be able to access all of those 4 quadrants, but you turn up somewhere and you only have 1 Stream Deck, or for some reason the Stream Deck's faulty or something like that, then you want the flexibility just to use 1 Stream Deck. And so that's kind of the way that I work, is being able to just have all of the functionality through a single Stream Deck, or if you've got the convenience, you can add more pages out here. So we're gonna go back to our demo group, and I'm just gonna trash that. And so now we've released all of our Stream Decks, and I can try and lay them out the way I had before with my USB cables along here. There we go. All right, so for my desk layout, I think sort of going in a straight line is pretty good. And now we can see that these ones are essentially not assigned to anything. So we need to go to, where are we? Emulator, no, I'm not an emulator, where am I? Down here, and we've still got our offsets here. So remember, I need to remove that. So it's standalone. Yeah, looks good. And 0 and 0. So I'm just resetting them back. And so now we've got, you know, stream decks that, like I could put this one on VLC, and I could put this one to run, where are we? Like Hyperdeck, and then this one could be on my, I don't know, my upstream key or something like that. And then I could use this one to switch. So I could lay out my stream decks across multiple pages, and at the moment they're just all operating individually. Like I said, it's great for flexibility if you've got something where, you know, maybe you want just like your, this is not finished, but where are we? Under ATEM media player. So maybe you want your media pool graphics just always there accessible, so you can quickly, you know, access that while you are, you know, cutting over here or something like that. So that's the reason why you might want to have separate stream decks. But I want to show you how to sort of set it to go across pages, which is a little more complex, and involves a bunch of variables. So let's stick with me on this one. Okay, so what we're going to do is create some variables that'll be sort of blank containers that we can then assign serial numbers to change which deck we want to target. So you see here under each stream deck has like stream deck CL49, that's the serial number. So you can hit copy and it'll copy that identifier. And so wherever you use that serial number now, it's going to know to address specifically this deck. But you probably don't want to hard code this because you might want to switch your decks around. And so that's where if we use a variable in the place, and then we can switch out with the variable what serial number is placed into that. So I have under internal, where are we? So if you go to variables, custom variables, and you need to make a new variable. I already made some, so surface. And so I've made the ones that are just called surface 1, surface 2, surface 3, surface 4. And if we open those up, there's nothing in them. But this is where are we? Under, if I have some buttons that can populate it. This is where each of those variables, let me just open this one up. 1, 2, 3, 4, can be assigned a serial number. So we'll get to how to do that in a sec, but you can see here, remember we copied that from the previous page, and now that we've created this custom variable down here, just type in surface 1, surface 2, etc., and go add. Then within this, and we want it to persist so that if we shut down Companion and boot it up again, it will remember what we had it set to last. We're going to be using stream deck, semicolon, and then the serial number to identify that this variable for surface 1 is pointing to like this specific deck. And it means that if this deck dies or this one goes out on a different job, you can grab this deck and find that serial number and just paste that into surface 1 here. All right, so now we're going to go to, we need to make a button to jump. So I'm just going to get rid of this one. And we can, if I go to, maybe come in a bit so you can see what I'm doing here. Actually, sorry, I need super source here. So this is the button to sort of jump to multiple pages. So let's just say we want to go to ATEM, the ATEM's page. So I'm going to make that 18. I'm going to give it just a different color so that we know that this is the one that we're working on, ATEM, and then we would want surface, type in surface set to page. You'll see turn up here. So, and this is where you can just use drop-down menus normally if you just want to create a page jump, so that if I click on ATEM, this is all synced again. It's going to go to whatever the page is. So by default, it's going to say current surface to this page, which doesn't actually take us anywhere. But if I wanted to type in ATEM, I know that on page 16, I've got my ATEM home. So if I go to 16, this is my sort of new ATEM page that I'm in the process of building out for DJF5. Let's go back to home. Okay, and so now when I press this button, it takes me home, and when I press that again, it takes me back over. I've got a back button in here. Let me just get rid of this pairing because I did turn that back on. So I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so these are independent, and it's just jumping there. So I got my menu page, jumping into controlling the ATEM, and then going back to my home page. So this is where, instead of just the drop-down menus, we can use variables. So if we select variable for both of these, we can set, I usually like, so what I'm building here is normally the self, as in like this page, like this current surface. You can leave it like that if you want. So I've got one action to, because I might have like an iPad or something, which is also got buttons here, and I want to be able to use this iPad to jump to a certain page and then go back, which I didn't type in here. So this would be 16, and then I can jump to that page, and I can go back to the home page. So you can press a hard number in this page expression, or you can actually create a whole complex expression in here, or you can just put in a variable, which is 16 is fine actually. Okay, so now we want to duplicate this, and instead of it being the current surface, we want it to be surface, it's custom, CUST custom surface 1. I'm going to copy that. And so I'm also saying I want to whatever's in my custom surface 1 variable to jump to the ATEM homepage. So remember, this custom variable here is going to convert to the serial number that we have stored in this variable. So now I can duplicate this, and instead of custom surface 1, we want to go custom surface 2, because in this variable we have stored the Stream Deck 2's serial number, and we want to target this one to page 17 for the ATEM's input page there, and then we want to have a third one. I'm going to go surface 3, and we're going to go 18, because we got 2 pages of inputs that would turn up here, and I have a fourth one as well, but I'm probably going to reprogram how this works. So 4, and then normally I have this set to page 99, which is like a menu page, so that you can have some quick settings here that are always sort of on this fourth one here. So now if I press this ATEM button, it has jumped to this surface because it's the self one is running. Remember, we had up here the current surface to ATEM 16, but I want to make sure, I want to get all of these in there, and so that's where I would be going to the where are we? Surfaces, and down to Stream Deck 1. Okay, so we're going to get down here. Where are we? Stream Deck 1. So we're going to copy this, and I might just create a button that's easy to access. So I'm going to move VLC out of the way, and I'm going to go just set. So this is the button that is going to set it. And I'll make that a bit smaller. and we're going to say raw. So we want a custom variable set raw value, and we're going to get the surface one to something. We're going to paste in the Stream Deck that I had copied before. Then we need to go back to surface, Stream Deck 2, copy, button, back over here, duplicate, paste it in, surface, let's type it again, surface 2, and we go back to surfaces, 3, copy, buttons, over here, bit of repetition, paste that in, surface 3, like so, and last one is surfaces, copy number 4, buttons, set, and all right, and paste that in. So these are all serial numbers of my 4 Stream Decks here, and this is now a sort of grouping configuration, which is going to jump based on those pages. So now all I need to do is to press it, and it is put those variables into stored it into the variables, those serial numbers into the variables. And so now when I go to ATEM, you can see that this has jumped to those pages. So this has jumped to my ATEM 1 page. And let me just go back to close-up so you can see better. So from my ATEM here, I've jumped to my ATEM homepage, and that's also made 3 and 4 go to 17 and 18, which is inputs 1 to 20, and then 21 to 40 here. And then also it's jumped at page 99, but I could make that like VLC or something else on the end. But 99 for me is like a page of shortcuts that I can press to jump around as a group. Okay, so now that you've got this button, and I'm just slowly getting rid of my my actual buttons on the page. So I'm going to get this button and paste it again, and I can just type this one clear, and now we can go through and delete it. And so now when I hit clear, it has cleared those numbers from the variables. And so when I click on this ATEM, none of these are going to work. Except for the current surface. So current surface is always going to work. That's why I always have at least one at the top, which is saying current surface, so that I can, on my iPad, for example, on an emulator, come over here and navigate through just a standard layout here. Jump into ATEM, go back. But then these ones aren't going to work, which means that they're now independent. So when I jump to the ATEM here, it is just doing the ATEM, and these ones are unaffected. And if I go set, then now they are in the array and can move around like that. So the reason that this is powerful is because if I don't have 4 Stream Decks with me, how do I get to these pages? You know, I need to be able to access everything through a single page, and I can do that within the page. So if I go to ATEM, and then I go to my input page, and you can see that is now the same as this page, and page 2 is the same as this page. So that's how I can access everything in Companion just within these first 32 buttons, but I'm stacking surfaces across multiple pages rather than putting them on one page. And even as like I developed this when Companion only had 32 buttons. So there was once a point of time in Companion that it only had 32 buttons on a page and only had 99 pages. So you couldn't just extend it out. It's really nice being able to have the larger canvas and to put, you know, Stream Decks wherever you want within that page. But I found for flexibility, I stuck with this system of sort of putting in the ATEMs. Putting in the stream decks in their own way. You could also, just to remember you can this is like set 4, but you could also have like set 2, which would be if I just had the first 2 with serial numbers and I cleared these last 2, and you could have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then if I hit set 2 and then we go, if I hit ATEM, now you'll see that just these first 2 decks are sort of working in tandem, and then these 2 are left on their own. So it's very flexible in that regard. All right, so part 3, which is, I've sort of already been over here in what I just showed you, but this is probably in part 2. No, it's actually meant to be part 3. I don't know where that went. But just wanted to show you, like, within my own profile, how this is built out, because this is already built into my DGF profiles to be able to control it across multiple pages when you have more decks available. So come under here, which doesn't quite fit on the page, but we'll work around there. So what I've got is my home page, which is a bit messed up now. Shot, scene, show, list. If you hit any of the shot, scene, show, or list page a second time when it's highlighted, it brings you into the menu. And then from there, I've got a second menu, and hidden at the back here is my grouping that is available here. So you can see at the moment, remember I just set it to 2 decks, and so we've got decks 1 and 2 are in operation, but I can cycle through this. So I can be solo, or I can very easily add in 2 decks, 3 decks, 4 decks, solo again, and it'll show you which surfaces are placed in there. And likewise, you can do this with the emulator as well. So when you load the profile, it's going to have emulators in there, and you can test this out without stream decks. So you can have emulators 2, 3, or 4, or solo. So let's start with the emulators, and I'll show you what's going on with that. So in surfaces, emulator 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're like virtual surfaces that you have. So if I go to emulator 1 and hit open, then you can see that this is an emulator that I can click around, and it's like the same as on my iPad, is basically the same thing. It's just opening a web page in a browser, and then you've got a sort of virtual stream deck. I'm just going to shut this one down. And each of these has its own unique serial number identifier here that you can copy. So it's the same process as before in terms of assigning this to a group. And if you go to, let me just go, maybe make it about, actually I'm going to make it this big, and I'll go, get rid of that, and I'm going to go open 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can try this out at home by going like so, and then you essentially have got Stream Deck 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think that's right. So they're all on the same page at the moment. So let's go back to, how am I going to do this? This is a very small page now. I'm going to drag this one out. We'll see how we go. I need a little more real estate to click on things. Okay, so now if I go back to buttons, and I'm going to page 98 is where it is. I'll show you what's in these buttons. So I've got and this is something you could build yourself, or if you have the profile, this is sort of how to use it. Essentially, I've just got a auto step progression with 4 steps in it, so there's nothing too fancy here. But in each step, I've got surfaces 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I've also just got another one last used showing me emulator or XL. So if I use this one, it would highlight into SDXL. All right, so, and then under each tab is how many decks are in the tab, in the group, sorry. So step 1 is basically clearing it here, but saying, we're using emulator was the last one. And tab 2 is putting 2 serial numbers in. So we've got these emulators in the group. And then 3 is 3 serial numbers and 1 empty one. And 4 is 4 emulators. So if I shift click on this one to make it 4, then hopefully if I bring these up, now you can see that these are acting kind of like we had with the same Stream Decks of working in tandem, right? So if I go to my ATEM, you see I've got my ATEM homepage and I've got my inputs and my page 99 in there. So that's the same thing that you can try at home if you don't have 4 Stream Decks and you just want to try that with emulators. And then I've just put a few feedbacks in there to give a bit more visualization there. So we have, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're adapting this, you can choose which serial number you're going to put your own serial number into. So if you click on Surface and it says paste surface serial number here, so you would go find your own Surface, whatever Stream Deck you have, copy that, and then come into Surface 1 and come into, it says paste surface here, and you just replace this serial number with your serial number is where you would find that. It also means here I can actually just turn off certain decks. So if I wanted just like 1 and 4 in a grouping, then I could do that, or I could turn 2 and 3 back on. Same thing with the Stream Deck XL. If you wanted, this button is just going through the buttons. So if it's solo, empty, 2, 3, 4 has 4 serial numbers in there. And then the feedback is basically checking a variable. So we go value, check value, and the variable would be the custom Surface 4 that we had before. I'm on Surface 4 here, and then just using not equals empty, and then highlight it. Meaning, if there's a serial number in there, or if there's any digit in there, then it's going to show a yellow. But because we've cleared it, it should be empty. If it's empty, it's going to, if it's not empty, it's going to show that that is active and part of the group. So that's kind of how that feedback part of that works. Hopefully that makes sense for how to use that, and also if you wanted to sort of adapt that and put either your own serial numbers in there or build your own kind of one at home. G'day. So let's say g'day to Jesse from Redlands, California, and HHP Digital from Johannesburg in South Africa, and just a couple of people here. And Ricky, great to have you here, Ian. Thanks for your emails. It's been good to hear how your project's been going. Jesse says, I'm almost done watching the back catalogue of live streams. Yeah, hopefully it's not too tedious. There's a lot of technical stuff in there. But yeah, we're up to 119, and they're generally about an hour, so that's 119 hours of your life. I'm honored if you're binging my back catalogue of content, and hopefully chapter markers in there will help you jump through to the relevant stuff. Doesn't look like we've got many questions here, so we could maybe wrap early and get on with our days. I think that's all I have to say about surfaces. What else can I say about surfaces? I'll just give you an update on what I'm working on, I guess, because I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm working on at the moment. One is the Roadcaster, sort of partway through a profile for that. Where is it? Here, to be able to control that via Companion. There's a few things missing from Companion at the moment in that module, so I'm sort of needing that to get updated before I can go further on that. I'm doing an overhaul of the ATEM module. So there's a lot of really exciting stuff in here to be able to control just a lot of the newer stuff. There's a lot of newer stuff that's come out in the last year or two in the ATEM module. So things like, being able to move my little face around here. This can all be done with smooth motions, and then I've got different, I guess you can have boxes, that kind of thing, or a full picture-in-picture. So I'm gonna go back down here. So a lot of upstream key changes also to be able to individually place it somewhere. So if I want to, I don't know, place it here, I can just have a lot more control of where I want that to go. Let's go back to the corner. And it's the upstream key. I'm also fitting a lot more onto fewer pages. So that's where it gets complex on the back end, but better for the user because there's not as many pages and it works across more keys and in some cases ATEMs. I've got some really cool, these are small things but really complex on the back end, which I think make a big difference. So for example, where are we? Down here. On my switching page here, I've now got it so that you can, where's something that's empty? They've all got something in them, that's good. NDI, so I can cut to my NDI camera. I can hold it down, and this is going to, I can now cycle through all of my inputs. So I could put in, I don't know, let's put in color bars like that. And so now when I hit color bars, I could do auto across to color bars and come back like that. So where this is helpful is if your inputs are changing, a camera instead of being plugged into input 3 is now on 15 or something, you can very easily just select a button and reassign it. I'm going to put this back to my, where's NDI? NDI is on 12, input 12. So, where are we? So I can cut back this way like that. So it means it's much easier to do this on the fly rather than having to go into Companion on the back end, and previously you'd have to go to a page and copy a button, and you can only do one button at a time because you can't do it like a marquee of buttons. And then I'd have to go to page 2, come down here, and then we'd have to paste that in, and then so it was a very slow way of setting things up. So I like that because not only is that doing it across that button, but you can jump into the ATEM and change which ATEM is being targeted. I've got 3 ATEMs in here. And so very quickly you can control ATEM 2 instead of ATEM 1. It's just for the routing. And then I'm sort of paring back some of the other things that were in the profile. So I'm focusing on trying to put my energy into one ATEM that's really great and covers everything. And then ATEMs 2 and 3 will be focused more on the routing. Just because it gets really dense and heavy with the feedbacks once you start having multiple ATEMs. So sort of making it achievable and not too overbearing, so that I can keep these updated. And what else was there? The media player has some really cool updates where you can actually, so I'll come in so you can see again, ATEM media player. You can actually see, it'll show you your media pool now, so you can select which one this is going to be. Oh yeah, now I can, I guess if I put my, where are we, super source on air. Now if I select this, it can change what's in the media player like that. Although that's giving me two. Okay, there's a weird layout. Let's go back and get out of this. All right, clear that out. And I had a question from someone, I think in the comments, about updating, doing an episode about variables for companions. So I will do that at some point, because there's a ton more that you can do with variables now and conditional logic, which just helps immensely. All right, let's get out of here. Hopefully that helps you know a bit more about how to group companion, how to group Stream Deck XLs in Companion. davidjoshuaford.com is my website where you can go to get those profiles, and there's some free ATEM ones as well. Until next week, take care, and I'll see you then.